Welcome to today's episode. I'm very excited about who we brought on today. So, for those of you who are new to the show, this podcast is sponsored by Plutus Agents. We help residential contractors eliminate the manual chaos in scheduling, client communications, and subcontractor coordination so they can stop wasting time on admin, increase margins, and keep building with the same team. Most of our clients, they come to us overwhelmed because their growth outpaces their systems, but with the right automations in place, they're able to scale efficiently without burning out their crew. So if that sounds like you or someone you know, make sure to stick around for future episodes. And if you're interested in a free growth consultation, just connect with me on LinkedIn and message me the word growth. All right, so today I'm with Orestes Romero, partner and CFO at Build Pro Construction. He has made many entrepreneurial pursuits throughout his journey, but found a passion for real estate. So over the last 2 years, he's led a systems first shift inside Build Pro and has been pushing hard on operational visibility, speed, and financial discipline. Orestes, it's great to have you.
Thank you, Owen. It's great to be here. Thank you for the invitation. And it was great to have a previous chat, get to know each other a little bit, tell each other a little bit about our stories. And I'm looking forward to this conversation, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So to start us off, could you just give us a quick snapshot of what Build Pro does today and some of those kind of common projects you guys take on?
Of course, of course. Well, Build Pro Construction, we were founded in 2010. We've been around for over 15 years now in residential and commercial construction. Our bread and butter are ground up builds, model projects, additions, like home expansions. We also do a lot of multifamily construction. We could do multifamily residential, for example. In other commercial jobs, we can do stores. We've done a few stores, medical centers, all that good stuff. We serve most of the state of Florida, mostly focused on the Tri County area, which would be Miami Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach County. But we have crews in many other places, and we've been able to have projects in Naples, Tampa, Sarasota, and all the way up to Jupiter, Vero Beach, all of that. So that's our bread and butter. That's what we do, and we focus on communication with our clients and trying to provide them the best experience possible in what is usually a stressful time in their lives as they're working towards realizing their vision or their dream home or dream project.
Awesome. So let's talk about your role. So what do you do in your day to day? What does that look like for you within Build Pro?
So I am the information hub in BuildPro within the company. I am a octopus, I would say, in terms of all the tentacles that I need to be having and all the information that is passed through me by me in BuildPro. I cover the CFO role. I cover operations as well. I manage all the processes, the SOPs that we have in our organization. And like I was telling you before, we jumped on the recording. It's constant work on honing the processes, on improving every day, tweaking communications. We could do this better, analyzing the feedback of clients, analyzing what's going on in each project so that the next project is always better, so that mistakes are avoided or corrected in a better way, in a more efficient way. Basically, just keeping the team together, holding the team accountable, following up with everything, and just multiple roles to support our sales, to support our project managers, and of course, to keep the company cash flowing, to keep the company in good standing financially and being able to make money, pay ourselves, make everybody happy.
Yeah, awesome. I never heard anyone call themselves an octopus before, but I love that. I love that. And you're totally right about the constant iteration within the processes. That's definitely something extremely important. I'll dive into that a little bit deeper. So you've kind of evolved from that, owner operated and reactive type thinking process toward a more process driven and measurable approach now. So could you walk us through that internal transformation at Build Pro from when you decided to partner back in 2024?
Yes. So I first started working with my partners, with who are my partners today, in another venture before we ended up partnering up in BuildPro. And I was able to take some peeks into BuildPro's reality and take some peeks into BuildPro's management without being diving deep or diving it deep fully. And I was able to hear certain pain points, certain complaints, certain inefficiencies. And that's the way that my brain works. Wherever I see inefficiencies, pain points, or anything like that, I'm always thinking about solutions and systems that need to be created around those so that we can correct them, proceed, scale, grow. So, long story short, when I came to BuildPro, I saw a company that was making money, you know, but a company that didn't know how much money we're making, what projects were the most profitable projects, what was the average operating margin, the net margin, what's the EBITDA of the company, and nothing was being tracked. It was run basically on, I want to call it putting more fuel to the flame, meaning sales and sales and sales and move forward and just go out there and sell some more and we'll see what happens in the back end. So when I found this and when I came into BuildPro as a partner and took over the role of CFO, controlling, and operations, I said to my partners, we're going to start from the beginning. We're going to start clearing the room. And first, we're going to move the big stuff. First, we're going to move the furniture, the large things that we can see from miles away, right? And then you're going to notice that we're going to start focusing on the little nuances. We're going to start picking, little wrappers from the floor. We're going to start vacuuming. We're going to start seeing dust here and dust there. As the house gets cleaner, more and more things start to pop up, right? And now you're drilling down into the little things that actually matter, that make a huge difference. Little time wasters here, little inefficiencies there that could, in construction, you lose a day, you're losing a week or two. So it's exactly how it happened. That was the process. We started organizing the main blocks. Everything started looking a lot clearer, and then we started going down to more and more details, honing processes, defining the roles more clearly. And what I was telling you the other day, now we have a company where if anybody leaves or if we onboard anybody, we have systems, trainings, processes in place so that anyone could be, for lack of a better term, replaceable, even myself, you
Yes,
know?
that's incredible. You found a good business that just kind of started with their grit. They just could do it without the systems in place, but then you saw that you could turn it into something real. So let's let's talk about those biggest leaks that you saw in the beginning, and how did you kind of plug those and fix those? Could you walk me through that?
Yeah, of course. It all comes down to project management. The bread and butter of the construction company is in the project management, and you're not managing anything if you're not controlling the costs, if you're not controlling your income, if you're not looking at the financials of the project day and night, day in and day out, right? Because you're just getting money. Money arrives into the account, usually one operating account, right? Money comes into your checking account from wherever it comes. It could be from project A, B, C, whatever. Money comes in, overhead gets paid, and then we have to pay subcontractors, we have to pay vendors, we have to pay everybody. And basically, if you're not controlling all of these things, you're just closing your eyes and hoping that you're making money, that everything is working, everybody's getting paid, but you're gonna get surprised if you weren't priced right, if there are change orders that the client's not paying, if there are pending reimbursements. You're not controlling the project itself, so you're not managing anything. So that's where I started. I started creating a system where we actually have created purchase orders, budgets of what's it going to cost us to provide you the remodel that you want, right? What's going to be our cost, right? And what's going to be our margin based on that cost. Now we have budgets, we have allowances, right? So now we award contracts in a system that lets us know who has been awarded the contract, right? Who's our subcontractor? Who's our point of contact for this, for that, whatever. So we started doing this and we found that there were projects that were just money pits because nobody was managing the projects. Project management is not being a foreman and it's not just seeing a project through. Because with enough money, anybody that doesn't even know construction can build something, right? So your edge is in the actual management of the project and being able to see it through in the most efficient way. And that means controlling the finances and, of course, troubleshooting with your expertise as a project manager on the field, right? You have a foreman, whether you have a foreman or not, you need to be there present, right? And then controlling the details over there, right? If the job site is clean, if the subcontractor ended this process so that the next one can come in and do their thing, if we need to call inspection, all of those things have to be controlled by the project manager. So I provide support to my project managers in reviewing financials with them, in clarifying these things, and I have given them enough, I would say, conversations, training. We have enough meetings so that they know what to be looking for, at least the main drivers, the main cost drivers, and the main income drivers from the project. So we started by organizing these big blocks and then trickle down from there.
Yeah, like we were talking about the other day, financial visibility is so, so important. And as CFO, it seems you have a good handle on that, on ensuring and guiding those around you to maintain that visibility. And you mentioned a little bit about handling those customer finances. So, how do you kind of segregate those client funds from you're not robbing Peter to pay Paul kind of thing?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's something that really sets us aside. I have a background in banking as well. Prior to joining BillPro, I have worked in some private banking. So I have a few connections in that world. I know of the flexibility of certain products that are available. And I always knew that that was an important step to take, meaning, like you said, the demise of many construction companies or service businesses is robbing Peter to pay Paul, meaning and that's why you get into this cycle that if you stop selling, you're dying, right? Of course, every company needs to sell in order to remain profitable and remain open, but the need to sell becomes more and more urgent if you're just burning through your cash. Because if I am doing a project for you, but I am using your funds to pay for another project, now I need to get another deposit to pay for your project. And then it continues. The vicious cycle continues, right? So I needed to find a way to keep these deposits and these funds separated. So I'm actually to have different accounts for different projects with their own P&L, right? So I can see the history of transactions for each of the projects, how my credit cards for each project draw from the project funds themselves, right? And I've centralized all payments to all subcontractors and all vendors through me at this point, right? Because we're still not at the end of the tunnel of all of the applications of these processes, right? So we need a lot of controlling and a lot of organization because it's a very, very fine line of let's just pay $500 over here, 300 over there. Little by little, you could be signing a little death sentence or you could be signing off your cash flow, you know. So I believe that that's how I did it, meaning keeping all the deposits separated. I have very good systems in place, a very good banking system in place where we can control absolutely everything and have absolute visibility of everything for every single project separately and then jointly as well, right? So that's a super powerful weapon because I can have a weekly meeting with my project managers. Then they have access to these accounts for their managed projects so that they know how much they have available, right? And we can see, hey, listen, we need another deposit. What's going to get us closer to that deposit? How are we doing in order to call inspection on this project? Are we close to calling that inspection? Because after we pass that one, we need to get a deposit for the next phase. We can't jump into the next phase and keep moving if we don't get a deposit. And that's another, sorry if I'm talking too much, but it brings me to another pain point, which is as a project manager and as a construction company, of course, we want to give our clients the best experience. We want to be as fast as possible and as good as possible, right? But in order to be fast, you need funds, and you can't fund construction in advance. And that's another mistake many times, meaning I want to get done with your project. And I know that if let's say I finish the painting, there's another payment coming for me, right? So I go ahead and I pay the painter and I go ahead and paint it and I do this and I do that, right? But I never got the deposit for the painting in the first place. So now I'm coming out of pocket and I've drained that account, and potentially I need to lend money to that project in order to cover those expenses. So that's something that we're big on, expense control and communication with the client. They know that we need funds in order to proceed. It's a business transaction, and everything that is transparent and honest, it's fair game. You know what I mean? It's the way that we want to operate, with transparency, with honesty, and be like, hey, listen, we can't carry on if we don't collect this money. Oh, I'll pay you next week. That's right. Okay, no problem. If you want to pay me next week, we'll continue next week. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, again, that financial visibility is so key, and transparency with your customers as well is extremely important. So how would you say you get those customers? Where do most of your leads come from, and how does that process flow from, you know, intake qualification to kind of the proposal?
So most of our leads come from driving by our job sites, driving by any construction job that we're doing, any of our projects, and seeing the yard signs, seeing our banners and everything, liking what we're doing, and they give us a call or they reach out, right? They're also word of mouth. I'm doing a project for you. You're happy with us. You're happy with the product, or your friends come over for dinner. They see your house and they're like, "Wow, this looks amazing. Who was your GC?" So then, we get referred. And I would say that those are the biggest ones. And then, of course, professional referrals as well. We get referrals from architects, engineers, and other peers like that, or other subcontractors that don't have the GC license, but they probably have the mechanical license or the electrical license, right? And they're going to do that scope of work, but we handle the rest, or we handle the full project management. So those would be the main three lead sources that we have. And then timelines are long in construction when you're doing big projects like us, because we can't give you an estimate unless you have drawings, right? We need the full set of plans in order to give you a really good bid, a bid that we can stand behind. Also, we can give you a preliminary bid sometimes, but without drawings, without measurements, without knowing the full scope of work of what goes into your electrical, mechanical, structural, all of that, we really can't, right? So the first part is making contact. We see that we have good chemistry. We get along well. We understand your vision on site, right? We're looking at, let's say, your house. You tell us what you want to do. Great. We're on board. We can do that for you. No problem. Now, engineering and plans, right? So that's where we're stuck a little bit, meaning it's an iteration process, right? The architect engineer, they propose something, review it with you, the client, you like it, you don't like it, I want changes, I want this, I want that, right? We're still in the background. We're still in the back end. We made that connection. Or if you're doing it with us, we're still sitting in the back, kind of trying to follow up a little bit on communication, remain informed on what's going on this part of the project. But we still haven't placed a bid or anything. We've just given you probably like a ballpark estimate, which is definitely going to change. So I would say we're talking about at least a month or two for that process before any deposit has been given. Then you have the plans, right? Final set of plans ready to be submitted. So we're able to quote, right? We're working on your estimate. We can give you an estimate, let's say, I would say around a turnaround time, average 2 weeks for a big project, give you an estimate while you're submitting your first set of plans to the city, wherever you are, right? And that is a whole different ball game. Like I was telling you, that could take from a few months to a year plus, depending on the jurisdiction, depending on the reviewers' requirements, all of that. And then it's just a process of following up, clerical work, document retrieval, following up with the engineer. Did you send this? Did you send that? Can you review this? The review cycle is not done. They've only reviewed such and such trades. Okay, well, I'm going to wait until I do the correction of the comments until the full review cycle is done. So the full review cycle depends on the people that work at the city or at the building department, wherever that is, right? So it's out of our control, and this process is very tiring, both for the client, of course, because sometimes they come in with expectations of like, oh, it's going to be a couple of months. And then, you know, different jurisdictions ask for different things, arborist reports, topographic surveys, asbestos surveys, anything, anything. They can come up with anything, and you just have to provide it.
Yeah, so that pre-construction process, the long timelines, that's brutal. So then have you standardized any sort of processes or just any way to keep that momentum with the customer when you can't control the city engineers or even customer change orders? There's those type of things you can't predict. How do you maintain that momentum to make sure you're with the customer?
Yeah, uh, you just have to touch base. I would say every week or 2 weeks, just inform like, hey, this is where we are. This is the process. This is how we're handling it. And then it's just, also having that conversation in the beginning, letting them know like it's not easy to get your permits approved. It's not an easy process. It's not a short process. It doesn't depend on us. We can try as much as we want. And mind you, many times we're just helping, meaning we probably haven't even gotten a deposit. You know what I mean? So we're just helping. We're there like trying to hold their hand, trying to help them out because, we do this because we love to see the product at the end. We love to see that the client is happy with what we did for them and everything, and we know that we can help them, right? But in that process, if anything goes wrong, many times we are the ones to blame, which is the eternal paradox, right? We're there to help and we're being blamed, and we have the same goal, you and me. I want to see it through. I want to see it through. I want to see you happy. And we both want to move our capital. We want to make money, and we want to make money while providing you with the best experience and the best project possible. We want to move forward.
Yeah, so just maintaining those constant human touch points to reassure them that things are in motion and we don't have that much control as you may think we do. So with all of the processes you've been able to iterate over the last, we'll say 2 years, where are you still seeing some friction within those systems and processes? What's the next iteration you're looking into?
So, adopting these processes is not easy for a person that has been doing the same thing for years and years or decades, right? In the same way. And it has worked for them until now, right? So it's the constant negotiation and education where we see the most friction, you know? It's the, hey, you didn't do uh, A, B, and C, right? You forgot to do these. You forgot to do that. You didn't provide this. And the best way that I try to explain it to my teams is I always use metaphors around sports, right? So and I played soccer. So in soccer, you try to get the ball, to the other goal score, right? And you're usually trying to pass the ball forward, or at least pass the ball to your teammate, right? It's way different if I pass you the ball or if I shoot you the ball. If I shoot the ball at you, right? So I try to tell them like that's what you're doing. You're either passing it backwards and losing the ball, and we lose possession and we lose momentum, or you're shooting the ball at me where you're gonna create additional processes for me or for A, B, and C, for whoever is receiving your so-called pass. So be generous. Be conscious of any action has consequences within the company as well, right? And someone will take the ball from you and take it to another place where it has to go. But if you don't give the information properly, if you don't communicate properly, if you don't do what you have to do, then you are the creator of the inefficiency within the company.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I love that analogy. I think I've heard that tech adoption in the trades and in construction is a pretty difficult process because it's a lot to take in, especially with a lot of the new systems that are being implemented. So what are some systems that you found to work particularly well?
Yeah. So tech adoption, as you say, in the construction industry, is, I would say it's a pain point, right? Like I said, many people are stuck in their usual ways and their old ways, right? So the fact that we have made all these changes, big changes so far, I take it as a huge win. It's a daily process of education, negotiation, an exercise of patience as well, right? To reteach what already has been taught, to remind what already has been taught and what is already in their minds, but everybody thinks that they're busier than the other person, right? And that's when self accountability comes into, and I'm big on that. Meaning, I couldn't do it. I was too busy, or I was doing this, I was doing that. Like, hey, dude, tell me that you forgot. Just say, I'm sorry, I dropped the ball. Nothing's going to happen. We are going to count the losses of possession and we're going to speak about it and we're going to see how we can help you keep that ball or pass it better. If some process is not working, we'll change it. Right. But that's it. It comes from accountability. It comes from saying, like, hey, listen, I dropped the ball, but not with excuses of I got too busy. They called me and it was my favorite is my email was on the outbox. I don't think that we have an outbox since the beginning of Hotmail. I think it stayed on the outbox. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
okay, yeah, yeah. I get it. It happens, you didn't press send. Okay, perfect. But there's many little excuses and mini passes that we give ourselves or we try to get for ourselves that if you want to compete and grow, compete in the big leagues, right? And not play third division, fourth division, or anything like that. You have to upgrade your systems and you have to upgrade yourself and your team, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's very true that accountability is huge. And it's also big in that iteration process as well. Somebody drops the ball, you know exactly where you need to go next to fix that. So, in our last conversation, you mentioned 25% year over year growth, which is absolutely incredible, by the way. But where do you see yourself in 12 months? What would consider the next 12 months a success? What are those goals that you have?
So it's a great question. Success would mean keeping that growth consistent, getting that 20% year over year growth over this year. I mentioned that we're in the well into the seven figures. So the success would be getting into those or starting to scratch the surface of the eight figures.
Awesome. Okay. Hypothetically, if you had a magic wand to fix one thing in the business right now that's either holding you back or slowing you down to reach that goal of maintaining that 25% year over year growth and getting to that, eight-figure milestone, what would that one thing be, that one wish?
It's a very good question. That's a very good question. It's a hard one. I would say pristine communication, pristine and efficient communication. I always say it to my team. I say I'd rather repeat things 10 times and be redundant and bore you than because we didn't repeat it, it got lost. Nobody grabbed that ball and the ball was dropped for a week, for 2 weeks, for days, whatever it is, you know? So I would say communication in our case is the biggest thing that I would change with that magic wand because we have the pipeline, we have the clients, we have the projects. It's just upgrading that team even more, to the next level.
Yeah, definitely. I like to say that you have to over communicate so you don't miscommunicate. So similar to what
Correct.
you were saying. Yeah, awesome. So I'll ask you one more question. Where would you see the construction industry in the next 12 to 18 months? So what are some trends or opportunities that you're seeing that might maybe reshape the industry or anything that you're thinking people aren't seeing yet?
I think that we're going to see a lot more adoption of AI in the construction industry, and I think that that's what's going to make the difference in the efficiencies that you can get versus your competition. I think AI is here to stay, of course, and it hasn't been trained enough in the construction industry yet, but we're going to see faster turnaround of estimates, faster turnaround of plans, drawings, everything. I think engineers need to beware. I think engineering, architecture, all of those professions are going to see some sort of competition or are going to be adopting AI as part of their workflow 100%. So hopefully that brings some costs down, expedites some things, right? And then on our end, the estimating part is going to be huge. We're already using AI for preliminary estimates, and we're incorporating AI as much as possible in our workflows, but making it trickle down even to the most basic level at the job site, I think that's going to be huge. Everybody having their own AI assistant, let's say, or AI agent, AI memory, that's going to be huge. So I think that that's where we're heading with the industry, and I think that the ones that don't adopt this are going to still keep, you know, having good results, having their usual results, but they're just going to be slower, not necessarily left behind because people are pretty loyal when they receive recommendations, but slower. And speed is going to be more and more important because the faster that I can get you an estimate, the faster that I can get you a proposal, sit down with you, change it on the go, change it live, make modifications here and there versus I got to go back. Oh, it takes me a couple weeks, right? I'm going to be closer to close your deal versus my competition. So I think that would be my best guess of where we're heading with the construction industry.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Companies nowadays kind of need to be that AI first, AI centric values within their company to make sure that they can maintain that efficiency, that speed to lead, because that's huge for customers, especially in construction, is speed. So if you can have AI in your systems and make sure that everything's running smoothly and fast, that's how you're gonna get ahead. That's a great way to end us off. Great way to wrap us up. Thank you, Orestes. I appreciate all the insights you provided.